January 1st, 2026, you wake up motivated, you're fired up, ready to transform. So you write a list of everything you're gonna change about yourself, what are the goals that you're gonna hit, and you feel unstoppable. But by January 15th, you've quit. And it's not because you're weak, and it's not because you're undisciplined. It's simply because you are building your entire transformation on motivation instead of systems. See, systems don't die. Motivation does. Let me paint the picture of what happens every single year. December 31st, you're lying in your bed thinking about all the ways that you're gonna change. You're gonna wake up at 5 a.m. You're finally gonna be consistent with hitting the gym. You're gonna start eating clean. You're gonna start reading. You're gonna work on your business. You're gonna build perfect habits. 2026 is your year. January 1st, you fucking crush it. You do everything on your list and you feel like a champion. January 2nd, still going strong. January 3rd, you probably skip your alarm, but you think, oh, whatever, the ball's wrong, I'm still a winner. January 5th, you've repeated that bad habit and formed a new one. You're pushing off your training till later, and all of a sudden, where's your momentum gone? And you feel like a failure. And the problem is you built everything on a feeling. Feelings change. Motivation is an emotion. It comes and goes based on how you slept or what you ate, whether someone pissed you off or what you saw an inspiring Instagram reel. So in other words, it's completely unreliable. You know what doesn't change based on your feelings? A system. Notice how you don't need motivation to brush your teeth. You don't need inspiration to show up to work. You just do it, because that's the system you have in place. It's just something that gets done. So that's what we're gonna build. A system that works whether you feel like it or not. Because if your transformation requires you to feel motivated every single day, you've already lost, my friend. And that would have been you last year, but you clicked on this video. So here we are. When I say system, you guys need to understand that I'm just referring to a structure that produces the results whether you feel like it or not. Really easy example to visualize this is fitness. Most people say, yeah, I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna get jacked, I'm gonna crush it. And they don't actually structure a block of times when they're gonna go. They just say, yeah, 3 or 4 times a week I'm gonna go. That ambiguity in between the 3 and the 4, that is lack of system. That is, I'm gonna rely on when I want to go because it's completely in my control. A system looks like I train Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at 4 p.m. every day. Bad day at work? Don't care. Didn't sleep well? Doesn't matter. Don't feel like it? Still doesn't matter. That's when you're training. Those are the days you're training on. That's the system. And the beautiful reason as to why this works is because the system that you input removes the decision. You don't have to have a mental battle every single day about trying to conquer your bad habits or trying to implement new ones. It's not a choice. And that is the fundamental difference between trying to be disciplined and actually just being disciplined. Because when you have a system, you don't need willpower. You just simply follow the structure. So let me break down exactly what a system is that actually lasts. Because most people, even when they input the systems, it still doesn't last. A good system simply has 3 components: structure, standards, and accountability. So firstly, structure. Structure just means you know what you're doing, when you're doing it, and why you're doing it. Most people fail because they're too vague. Like you might have written a goal that says, I'm gonna work on my business more. What does that really mean, buddy? It's like, more than what? More than what? When? For how long? Doing what specifically? Do you see how if you don't know what success looks like, you can't win? When you set goals, you need to know what a win looks like to know what you're trying to hit. Imagine if I told you, you need to play a game of football or soccer for the Americans, and you have to kick the ball straight into the goal. That is how you win. You get plonked onto this football pitch, you look around and you can't see the goals. See how ridiculous that sounds? How can you play a game of football and expect to win if you don't know where the goals are? Life is just the same. How can you expect to win in life if your goals look like, yeah, I'm gonna work on my business more? It's not good enough. It doesn't mean anything. Structure looks more like, I'm gonna work on my business every single morning from 9 to 10 a.m. First 20 minutes is gonna be emails and admin. Second 40 minutes is gonna be content creation and fulfillment, or whatever your business model is. Now, you don't have a decision to make when you sit down every morning and think, how am I gonna win? You already have the structure laid out. Just follow it. Here's the key though. Structure needs to be sustainable. This is where most guys fail. Because if your structure requires you to wake up at 4 a.m. every morning and then just do 3 hours training, then 12 hours of work, and then meal prep, and then read, and then that's not sustainable. If you were at the start of a marathon and you saw a fella just sprint and you're getting your jog on with the other 100 people and you just see one guy just sprint at the beginning of this marathon, everyone around him and yourself would say, he's an idiot. He's not gonna last. He's not gonna make it past the first mile. He's gonna gas out. That's not sustainable. He needs to take it slower. The same is true with life. Let's get a jog on. Everyone's so obsessed with sprinting and get the fast thing now and just have a perfect routine right now. But the truth is, your routine right now is probably crap. So you can't just wake up one day on January 1st and go from crap to excellent. You need to go from crap to less crap. And then the day after that, you go to less crap until you work your way up gradually into someone who is getting a good jog on for this whole marathon. And that outperforms the guy that sprints at the beginning 10 times out of 10. So what I would recommend is that you start small and pick 5 behaviors that move you towards your goal. Maybe it's 8 hours of sleep. Maybe it's training 3 times a week. Again, for each one, getting specific having the structure of what that looks like, but just pick 5 small behaviors that feed into that vision. Then do those 5 things every time you say you're gonna do them, every day, keep showing up, and then when it's completely automatic, add habit 6. When that one's automatic, add habit 7. That's called habit stacking. If you can habit stack, you can win the day. If you can win the day, you can win the day 7 times in a row. If you can win the day 7 times in a row, you just won the week, you can win the month, you can win the year. This is how people fucking win at life. The only reason you are behind in life is because you let time slip and you didn't stack the things that you wanted to do in the days that you had. Capiche? This is how you build a lifestyle instead of a motivated 2 weeks. By the end of this video, you're gonna be a fucking weapon. Everybody put thank you in the comments. Thank you so much. Drop a like for that right now. Subscribe for that right now. The second component, like I mentioned, is standards. This is about identity. Right, this is about who you are. Most people say, I'm trying to be disciplined. And that's the problem right there. You are trying, which means you're not. When you shift from I'm trying, you switch it to I am, everything changes. I often say to my students, to try is to fail. Because when you say you are trying to do something, you are anchoring yourself in identity as the exact thing that you're trying not to be. For example, I'm trying to be healthier means you are an unhealthy person trying to not be that. If you say, I'm trying to quit smoking, you position yourself as a smoker. Instead, you could just say, I don't smoke, and then make that true from that point onwards. I mean, you have full ability to make that true from this very moment. Even if you've woken up at 10 a.m. every single day of your life thus far, you could say, right now, I'm an early riser, because from this point onwards, you could always wake up at 6 a.m., fully in your control, and that would be true from this moment onwards. And you saying that right now isn't lying. But if you said, I'm gonna try and wake up early, watch yourself fail again and again, because subconsciously you're trying to be something that you've just anchored yourself as not being that thing. That's why you can't stack habits. That's why you're inconsistent. That's why you get a good streak going. And then when it falls off, you're right back where you don't want to be, because you're identifying as the thing you don't want to be. So that's what I mean when I say standards. You're not someone trying to build a business. You are a builder now. That's what you do. You build. I know what you're thinking. It sounds like semantics, but it truly is everything. Because when your identity shifts, the behavior that follows becomes automatic, because the brain loves to live in alignment with who it thinks it is. That's why people that say, I'm an early riser, love waking up early. It's not just because they love waking up at 5 a.m. Guess what? No one likes waking up at 5 a.m. Waking up at 5 a.m. sucks. They like the pride they get from saying they're an early riser. And every single time you follow through with a system, you prove to yourself that that is your identity. You reinforce that. You prove to yourself, I'm someone who keeps my word, and I don't let myself down when I set goals for myself. And that's how the system becomes part of who you are and not just what you do. Third component, accountability. This is a really simple one. Just track everything. You can have accountability with yourself. Write down your 5 habits every single day. Write down whether you did them or not. Matter of fact, before the new year starts, or if you're just catching this early on in the year, make a page for the next month. List out 5 habits each time. Put a little box next to them so that it's just easy. That's how you build the system. No lying, no excuses. If you didn't do it, don't mark it. If you did, do it. Because here's what happens. When you actually track it, you can't lie to yourself anymore. You can't say, oh, but I've been making an effort to do this. No, you see 5 days in a row where you didn't do it and you could have, and you need to change that. You can't say, I'm working hard, when your tracker counts 2 days out of 7. You're hardly working. Now, here is the beautiful part about systems. Once you have structure, standards, and accountability in place, there's only one variable left between you and hitting your goals, and that's time. And time is guaranteed. It's gonna pass. If you have a system that works and you follow it consistently, results aren't a question of if. They're a question of when. Think about it like compound interest. You put money in an account. The system is automatic. It deposits every single month. You don't need motivation. You don't need to feel inspired. And then in 10 years, you're wealthy. Same principles apply to everything else that compounds in life, like your habits and actions. And this is why the new year doesn't really matter. I never waited for the new year to try and start something, because the new year is still built on motivation. It's still built on feelings. But when you have systems, you don't need January 1st. You don't need a fresh start. You don't even need to feel ready. You just need to build the structure, set the standards, track everything, and then let time do its thing. That is how you make it so that success becomes inevitable. Now, in fairness, all of this is easier said than done. Building the right systems, actually sticking to them, and holding yourself accountable when literally no one's watching is the hard part. And it's why most people fail even when they know exactly what they should be doing. And this is exactly why I built Nightfall, my 12-week mentorship program, which is designed to make you look, act, and feel like the man you know you're supposed to be. And we don't just tell you what to do, we build the systems with you. We give you the structure, we help you set the standards. And the team and myself personally hold you accountable every single day through our habit tracking system, the weekly group calls, your very own personal accountability coach, and obviously a community of guys on the exact same path. And I literally cover everything: physique optimization, building genuine confidence, developing your purpose, cultivating the mindset that makes success inevitable. Everything I've learned on this mission, I put it into the most effective, compact 12-week mentorship that exists anywhere on the planet. You're welcome. So, if you're serious about making 2026 your year and you resonate with what I've been saying and you're ready to stop making excuses and actually build the life that you keep talking about, you can apply below and you'll get on a free call with my team where we'll map out your roadmap for 2026. No strings attached. Worst case scenario, you leave that call knowing exactly what you want to do for 2026. Best case scenario, you get accepted into Nightfall and we build those systems together. Application is in the description. Much love, gang, as always, and let's make this year different. Let's hit it hard and let's make it count. Love, guys.